From secret romances to very public meltdowns, these are the affairs that changed Tinseltown forever. Humphrey Bogart and Mayo Method's marriage was a ticking time bomb from the start. Studio executives called them the Battling Bogarts, and for good reason. Their fights weren't just verbal. They threw bottles, punches, and sometimes even bullets at each other. During a USO tour in 1944, they got so drunk they started shooting guns at one another. The press ate it up, but behind the headlines lay two people drowning in alcohol and jealousy. Enter Lauren Bacall, a 19-year-old newcomer on the set of To Have and Have Not. One night, Bogart visited her trailer to say goodnight. He lifted her chin and kissed her. And just like that, Mayo Method's marriage was over. The tragic part is that while Bogart and Bacall went on to become Hollywood royalty, Mayo never recovered. She died alone in 1951, her career and life destroyed by alcohol and heartbreak. Speaking of destroyed careers, wait until you hear what happened when America's sweetheart fell for an Italian director. Next scandal. Frank Sinatra married Nancy Barbato as a teenager. She cooked his favorite spaghetti, gave him 3 kids, and stood by him while he chased fame. Frank's response? He chased other women. But Ava Gardner was different. The moment he saw her on the MGM lot, he told a friend, "I'm going to marry that girl." Nancy didn't stand a chance. Sinatra left her after 12 years of marriage, marrying Ava just 72 hours after their divorce. The press painted him as a villain who abandoned his family. But here's the twist. Years later, Nancy admitted she only agreed to the divorce to save his career. "Once you've married Frank Sinatra," she said, "how do you top that?" Sometimes love triangles destroyed more than marriages. Sometimes they destroyed decades-long friendships. Debbie Reynolds and Elizabeth Taylor met as teenagers at MGM's studio school. They shared clothes, secrets, and dreams of stardom. By 1955, Debbie had married singer Eddie Fisher, and Elizabeth found happiness with producer Mike Todd. The two couples became inseparable until Todd's plane crashed in 1958. Fisher rushed to comfort the grieving Elizabeth. Late-night consoling turned to romance, and suddenly America had its perfect scandal. The good girl, the grieving widow, and the man who chose between them. Eddie left Debbie and their 2 young children, marrying Elizabeth just 3 hours after his divorce finalized. The press went wild. Everyone took sides. Debbie played the abandoned wife perfectly, saying, "I'm not surprised Elizabeth fell in love with Eddie. The surprise is that he fell in love with her." The real shocker? She forgave them both years later. When reporters asked why, Debbie simply said, "Elizabeth did me a favor. She took him off my hands." Years later, Elizabeth admitted she never really loved Eddie. It was just grief and loneliness. But some Hollywood affairs burned much hotter than that. Spencer Tracy and Katharine Hepburn's affair started in 1942 and lasted until his death in 1967. The catch? He never divorced his wife Louise. A devout Catholic, he lived separately from Louise but remained married to her, while openly living with Hepburn. Hollywood knew, the press knew. Everyone looked the other way. Hepburn nursed him through illness, managed his alcoholism, and even put her career on hold to care for him in his final years. When Tracy died, Hepburn didn't attend his funeral out of respect for Louise. She watched from a distance as they loaded his casket into the hearse, said goodbye alone, and went home to grieve in private. Louise never complained, never caused scenes. Her response when asked about the affair: "I will be Mrs. Spencer Tracy until the day I die." Some affairs ended quietly.